Hi, everyone. David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at the DRF Friday race of the day. The Friday after Thanksgiving, the traditional feature at Churchill Downs is the Grade 2 Clark Stakes. This one going 1 mile and 1/8 around the dirt oval at Churchill Downs for the older horses. Race 11 on their 12 race card. Some really nice stakes action coming up this weekend at Churchill Downs. And with this race being run on the Friday after Thanksgiving, it is Black Friday. And you do want to take advantage of our Black Friday sale that we got going on at DRF.com. You can save 20% off everything in the DRF store. Just use the coupon code BF2025 when you do your shopping at shop.drf.com this Black Friday weekend after Thanksgiving. Well, Mike, let's take a look at the field of 9 runners entered for this Grade 2 Clark. And I know the Graded Stakes Committee downgraded this race from its brief time as a Grade 1 a few years ago. But when you kind of look at the landscape of Grade 1 races that are run after the Breeders' Cup, you can make a fair argument that this is the closest we're going to get to a Grade 1 field between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. With some real, like horses that we're very familiar with, David. They've been in this handicap division. They've been doing good things in this handicapping division for the last couple of years, and this is just a really good spot for several of them. And then you add in, a little sprinkle there of 3 pretty good 3-year-olds here that really add some intrigue.
Yeah, and we've got some horses that, as you say, familiar names in this division. Horses like Hit Show, Rattle N Roll, horses who have earned a lot of money during their careers. Obviously, Hit Show, over $8 million in earnings with that Dubai World Cup victory under his belt. But also got some 3-year-olds that are stepping up against their older rivals here, Mike. And I don't know how you felt. I was a little surprised by the morning line for this race now that I'm seeing it, because I kind of felt like the horse that's drawn all the way on the outside, Magnitude, was going to take a lot of money and might go off favored here. I don't know how you saw it.
Yeah, I just didn't see the morning line when I initially went through the race. I see it up there now. I don't know that I think more than anything else, David, I just think this field is so evenly matched that I'd be surprised if anybody went off at too short a price, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised if Magnitude wound up taking his share of money here.
Well, I pegged Magnitude as a horse that the bettors might go for. Let's take a look at where he could be placed on the Timeform US pace projector for this race, because we know this horse has a lot of early speed, Mike, but he did show a new dimension last time in that Pennsylvania Derby where he just kind of got outrun to the front end and showed his ability to rate off the pace, still finished well once he got his way into the clear in the late stages of that race. So drawing outside here, I think that gives new jockey Jose Ortiz some options to maybe not have to send this horse aggressively to the lead if they don't want to, depending on who else goes in this race. And while the pace projector is predicting a fast pace, I think that there's going to be a lot of cat and mouse coming out of the starting gate, because a lot of these horses that can go forward, they don't necessarily need to be on the lead to have their best chance.
Yeah, I would just say as far as the pace projector is concerned, I'm a little surprised they have it as a fast pace, but we'll see how it all plays out. Certainly Willie D's kind of feels like a horse who's going to want to go and see if he can make his way to the front, because it kind of feels like his only chance to win here. I'm kind of with you as far as Magnitude goes. Maybe he's just best on the lead, David. Pretty encouraging performance in the Pennsylvania Derby, considering the trip that he pulled.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even be surprised if Chunk of Gold is the horse that finds himself on the lead, because he has been pretty effective since they've changed around his running style to go to the front. And I would imagine with him, there'll be maybe more intention to get the lead in the race with some others in this race. Let's go through this field from the rail out. Just a reminder, you can get free past performances for this race on the DRF website, with this being the DRF Friday race of the day. Mike, we'll lead off the contenders with the number 1, Cooke Creek. This is a horse who actually ran in the Clark last year, took some money to go off at 6-1, got a wide trip, was never really in the hunt that day. Since then, he's kind of had a slow start to his 2025 campaign, wasn't really competitive across 3 races, did get back on track last time at Delaware, but he could not have gotten a better trip in that race.
Yeah, a trip that he's not going to get in here. He's an interesting horse in here, if only from the perspective of he's probably going to be a good price, and it's not like he doesn't have races that would give him a chance in here, at least a chance to maybe be involved underneath. I don't know if I would take him on top in here. He's a really cool horse, because he's the kind of horse that I feel like I always want to follow, or just a really smart claim for really sharp connections. He's had potential early on, sort of lost his way. They've gotten this horse good again, or at least they did last year. Don't really love the form he's coming into this race in now.
The number 2, First Mission. He is one of 2 Brad Cox trainees in this race. And Mike, that somewhere in there's the talent to win a race like this. He's looked like the kind of horse that had a Grade 1 race with his name on it all throughout his career. It's never really happened for him. Brad Cox actually said he sent him out to Southern California to contest the Goodwood last out, because he thought this is going to be the horse's last chance to get a Grade 1 victory. He's probably going to go out to the breeding shed after his 5-year-old season. Wasn't able to do it. And that was actually a pretty disappointing effort in Southern California last time, considering the way that race race came up. That was probably a weaker race than this one, even though that was a grade 1 and this is a grade 2. He's got to get back on track, but there are speed figures going back through his past races that would give him a chance in here.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, yeah, I don't know which race was more disappointing out of those last two, David, the Goodwood or the Island, where he just really he was a super short price, a race he was just kind of supposed to win, and he made hard work of it every step of the way in there. And it was a pretty bad loss. And then they shipped him out for that grade 1 last time. He just didn't really run that well in there. So those are obviously the negatives. The positives, though, are the other things you pointed out. I mean, he's got a bunch of races that are going to give him a real chance to win this race. He's also got the right running style for this kind of race too, David, because I do feel like I'm not expecting there to be a really fast pace in here. But either way, this horse is either going to be right up close or he's going to be sitting, I think, right in behind the lead for most of his trip in here. And so I like that about him. You know, you have these two bad races, and listen, maybe it's just a terrible sign for him. Maybe his life is over and he can't run anymore. But if he can, it feels like just about everybody's off this horse now, and maybe you'll get a fair price.
He does pick up Flavien Prat again, but the way Flavien's riding in New York doesn't hurt to have him aboard, and he was aboard for this horse's top career buyer, that 109 in the Oaklawn Handicap. The number 3 Hit Show, he is the other Brad Cox runner in this race, actually the one that was pegged as the morning line favorite, and I kind of get it, Mike. I mean, he's got that major win on his resume from earlier this season in the grade 1, or group 1, I should say, Dubai World Cup, where he upset Forever Young, probably some excuses for that rival on that day, and Hit Show was able to pick up the pieces to get the job done. As far as his U.S. campaign has been concerned, Mike, he is one of those horses kind of like First Mission, where he's never broken through at the grade 1 level on North American shores. And while this is not a grade 1 race, he is facing some pretty tough rivals in here. He was in the Clark last year, kind of got to drifting in the stretch of that race, but he got back on track after that, comes off a good race last time. We'll take a look at the stretch run of the Fayette, his most recent prep for this, when he made a run from mid-pack to get the job done. And Mike, the best thing I could say about this race is that at least he was a little more engaged in the early stages, and he was able to get first run on his main rival, Rattle N Roll, who was way too far back.
Yeah, that's the problem with Rattle N Roll. It's his running style. He runs really well in here. You'll see him down the outside in the red hat, but Hit Show just had a perfect trip in here. This was a switch to Irad Ortiz, and he had this horse in position every step of the way. He easily takes over from Gosger here in the stretch and gets the job done. A good performance. I just think overall, listen, the Dubai World Cup win is what it is at this point. It's an excellent win for this horse. And I just feel like since he's gotten back over here, his races they're good. I mean, the 2 out of the 3 races since he got back over here, they're good. I don't think he ran well in the Lucas Classic 2 starts back, but he surrounded it with 2 really good efforts.
Yeah, Lucas Classic, a little problematic for me. And you could make the argument that he hasn't always run his best races at Churchill Downs, which is a minor concern, but he did get back on track last time. The number 4, Gosger, he was finishing 3rd in that replay of the Fayette that we just took a look at. And Mike, I wonder what you make of that performance, because you can make the case that the pace kind of fell apart at the end, and Gosger was on an outside chase most of the way. He sort of fought back better than the other horses involved in the pace in the late stages. But on the other hand, this is a horse that was all upside coming into the summer of this season. And I think you kind of expected him to, ascend to the grade 1 level at some point. It's never really happened with him. And I don't love that they're now putting blinkers on, which always strikes me as a move of desperation.
I don't like the equipment change either. Yeah, and I'm with you. I mean, he felt like he had a lot of potential as we hit the sort of midway point of the year after his Preakness and his Haskell. I don't know, man. If I'm being honest, he ran fine in those races. I'll just put it that way. I didn't think he ran great. I thought he ran fine in those races. The flip side of that is I really didn't like the trip he got in the Pennsylvania Derby. And I really didn't like the trip that he got in the Fayette last time. I'm not sure how much it really cost him, but man, talk about a horse who just gets stuck wide every step of the way in 2 races in a row. And it's this guy. Maybe it will make a big difference if he pulls a different trip this time.
And I know he's a horse that Brendan Walsh has said has never been the best workhorse in the mornings. That was discussion point going into the Pennsylvania Derby, where he got outworked by a horse that was also his stablemate. Really didn't like his last work with the blinkers on, but maybe that's just this horse at this stage of his career. We'll see about that. The number 5, Chunk of Gold, another 3-year-old facing his older rivals in this Clark. And I was a big fan of this horse going back to the first part of the season. He didn't run that badly in the Kentucky Derby, though wasn't really competitive with the top 3 finishers that day. And since then, they've targeted some easier spots with him. He's gotten some confidence-boosting wins, particularly since they put blinkers on 3 starts back in that West Virginia Derby. That changed around his running style, made him into a much more more aggressive horse. And we'll take a look at his most recent start when he used those front-running tactics to wire a high-level allowance option, though Clayton Field at Keeneland, and he got away with a pretty soft pace this day, but you still like the way he finished off this race and drew away to a fast fire speed figure.
Yeah, he just dominated these horses. They did sort of turn him loose on the lead in this race, but he just dominates these horses. This is it seemed pretty clearly to be soft trip or not, a real move in the right direction for this horse. I wonder how you're on this, and he's got two pretty easy wins recently in races where, you know, he just really didn't face any real challenges on the lead. And I feel like this race will be run in a much different fashion. What do you do with the race in between the two wins, though, David? I know it's only a 3-horse field. He doesn't make the lead. He's a super short price in that race. And he just gets turned away by a horse. I mean, that horse might actually be pretty good, but he just got turned away by that horse.
Yeah, that was basically a match race on paper. There was one other horse in there that really had no chance, and the top two kind of went out there. And you could see Jareth Lovebury was very intent on trying to get Chunk of Gold to rate off that other horse. And Chunk of Gold didn't seem to want to rate with those blinkers on. And I think they kind of realized that day they've got to go forward with this horse. We'll see. He probably has to go faster to get the lead here, but I think he might be able to get it just given the intention. The number 6, Rattle and Roll, he will not be on the front end. He is a deep, deep closer, and he used that style last time in that replay of the Fayette that we took a look at. He was the one closing down the center of the track to get up for second behind Hit Show. And that was a step in the right direction after he really didn't do any running off the layoff in the Lucas Classic. That was a race that he obviously needed coming back from the Middle East. And while he did win that one race in Saudi Arabia, his Middle East campaign generally was pretty disappointing. And I just kind of wonder where this horse is at this stage of his career, Mike, because there was a time when he would be pretty competitive against this field.
No doubt about it. I was wondering about that as well, because I remember thinking that he ran really well in his first start when they sent him overseas there. The win over there, he ran really well in that race. And then his next two starts just weren't really good at all. I don't know how much you want to hold those races against him, but he certainly didn't run well. And then his Lucas Classic was real bad. Like, he just didn't really do any running. I thought he got back on track last time. That pace was pretty solid. It's not like he didn't have any setup at all, but he came running there. He had a lot of work to do still at the top of the stretch of that race, and he came running at the end. To me, it's a great sign for this horse. I've always been a fan of his, and I do feel like there's at least some chance he gets a proper setup here and he can come running. I also kind of feel like the 7-2 morning line isn't a price I would take on him against this field, but I just like him, David, and I would certainly try to use him somewhere in here because I think he's definitely good enough to win.
I do think you're going to get better than 7-2 if you like him. And we should also mention he is the defending champion in this race. He won the Clark last year. And I point that out because when you watch the replay of that Clark last year, he was way more engaged in the early stages than he's been in just about any race over the past couple of seasons. Don't know if he can ever get back to that style again, but if he does, he'd be pretty tough in here. The number 7, Who Day, is a horse who's facing lesser competition, an Ohio bred who won that Ohio Endurance last time at Mahoning Valley, going 1.25 miles. So we'll actually be cutting back a little bit, Mike, but a little tough to build a case for this guy just based on the company that he's been keeping recently.
Pretty cool horse, but his last 2 wins are against Ohio breds, and it's not like they're clear-cut victories at really short prices. I don't know. He's a cool horse. I don't like him in here.
The number 8, Willie D, is likely to be a pace presence from the outside in this race, and he ran in the Charlestown Classic, I should say, 2 back at Charlestown, where they took him a little further off the pace, made a run for second behind Banishing. Probably not as strong a race as what he's lining up against in here, and he tried the Lucas Classic last time, and they sent him to the front end, Mike, and I just didn't like how he had absolutely no answer once the closers came for him at the top of the stretch, and kind of makes me wonder where his form is at late in the season.
Yeah, I'm worried about that too. He's another horse. He's a pretty smart, sharp play in there by Mike Maker, who got this horse good for a couple of starts for sure. But I think it's a valid question of whether he can go with these horses anyway, even when he's in good form, and he doesn't seem like he's in great form right now.
Rounding out this field on the outside is the number 9, Magnitude, a horse who turned a lot of heads earlier this season when he burst onto the Kentucky Derby trail with that victory in the Risen Star, earning a 108 buyer, quickly whisked off to the sidelines with an issue. But he came back this summer, Mike, and, basically generated some hope that he could challenge Sovereignty to be the top 3-year-old when he ran that near 10-length victory in the Iowa Derby. I know I was one of the people that was tricked into thinking he might be able to do it the next start when he faced Sovereignty in the Travers. That was probably, in retrospect, too much too soon for Magnitude. He didn't have the foundation underneath him to take on a legitimate top horse like Sovereignty, but I think he took another step forward from that race when we'll check out the replay of the Pennsylvania Derby last time, because like we said earlier, he did not get his preferred trip going to the front end. He had to race operate in behind horses. And he took to it pretty well. He had to be ridden pretty hard coming around the far turn to maintain his position. But I like this part of the race. Once Ben Curtis finds some daylight with him, you could see him visibly pick up his stride, try to go after that target in front of him. So I like seeing that attribute from a horse that had previously been mostly a one-dimensional front rider. And maybe he's a more versatile horse than we ever gave him credit for. Does get a rider change to Jose Ortiz for this race. And I think Steve Aspen has to be pretty pleased with the outside post draw.
It has to be. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that, David. I mean, he obviously, for whatever reason, however it happened, he really found himself there earlier this year with two, really big wins. And I know that he missed a bunch of time in between, but all of a sudden, this horse just got really, really good. And his last race, I thought it was really encouraging. And I'm not going to sit here and say he had some kind of super tough trip in there and, whatever. He had some kind of big excuse, but he did show that he can sit in behind horses. And I sort of saw the same thing you did there. When he got clear, it took him a long time to get clear in the stretch, but when he did get clear, he really ran.
I also noticed his work tab for this race, following a lot of Steve Asmussen runners. You notice a lot of maintenance workouts, maybe one serious workout before a race. This horse has a string of serious workouts for this. And I wonder if this is the kind of race that Steve Asmussen has really turned the screws now that he's had 3 starts under his belt for this late season campaign. Let's go to our picks for this Clark. And Mike, I'm not going to get too creative here. I put Magnitude on top. Like I said earlier, I think he's going to be the favorite in this race. And especially now that he's 9-2 on the morning line, he might get bet down even further. So I'm not expecting to get some great price on him. I just think he's the most likely winner. I've got my pal Chunk of Gold in there in second. I'm not sure that he's quite good enough to wire this field, but he is a horse that has shown he can outrun his odds at times.
No doubt. Listen, you went with the 3-year-olds. I decided to go against the 3-year-olds in here, and I'm just sort of I wanted to stick with the horses, the sort of more known commodities, I guess. I've always liked Hit Show. I've always liked Rattle and Roll. I have both of them in there. The longer I looked at the race, and it wasn't easy for me to make this call, David, but I just sort of felt like First Mission, he can win this race. He has races that are good enough to win here. And I just feel like off of his last 2 races, which are both stinkers, I feel like a lot of people are off this horse now. So he might be a fair enough price for me to take a little bit of a shot with.
It's the 3-year-olds for me. The older horses for Mike. I've got it 9-5-3-4. Mike has 2-3-6-4 in the Grade 2 Clark, the DRF Friday race of the day at Churchill Downs. Good luck if you're playing the races the day after Thanksgiving.